In this video, I tried adding a keyboard solo to Lewis Cole's I'm Tight. If you don't know who Lewis Cole is or haven't heard his song, I'm Tight, you should look it up. It's really good. And you'll better appreciate the changes that I made to the song. After discovering his song a few weeks ago, despite it being a fantastic song, I felt that it was missing something. With a few snips, clips, and snicks, I managed to craft the perfect solo. So in today's video, I'm going to show you exactly how I did it. Oh, also, if you enjoy the video, be sure to like and maybe even subscribe if you're feeling generous. It helps out the channel and motivates me to create more and better content. Okay, let's get to it. So the first thing I did was rearrange the original song so that I could lead into the solo with a good build-up. I found a section that I could just loop over and over and just repeat until the solo starts. Then I took another part of the song and isolated the vocals from the instruments using iZotope's RX8 audio editor. This way, I could manipulate the vocals without having the background instruments from this track conflict with the background instruments from this track. Once I had found the right background instruments to loop and the right vocals to put over it, I was finished with editing the original audio, and I could move on to my own tracks. Next in the build-up is a synth bass. Because the track I was using for background instruments didn't really have any bass, I had to add my own bass. So I transcribed the bass line from the original song and recorded it with my own bass track here.
You think I'm weird, but I'm still fucking weird.
Next is a kick drum. Now you can't actually hear the kick drum because it's not meant to be heard. This track is used as an input for a sidechain compressor. If you don't know what that means, basically whenever a kick drum from this track is played, some of these other tracks will temporarily get quieter or compress. Kind of like how if you sit on a yoga ball, the ball compresses under the weight of your body, and when you stand up, the ball goes back to its original shape. In this analogy, your body is the kick drum, and the yoga ball is the other instruments. In a minute, you'll hear what I mean. At the same time that the kick drum comes in, vocal harmonies down at the bottom enter. Each of these tracks are of me singing a vocal line, transcribed from the original song.
Cause sometimes I hate me, but right now it's alright. Right now at least, cause sometimes I hate me, but right now it's alright.
I started with the top harmony and made my way down to the bass. And altogether, they should sound very similar to the original background vocals.
I'm still fucking here. That is why I'm back. You think I'm weird, but I'm still fucking here. That is why I'm back.
Next, I added a shaker. It's just a good way of adding energy to the build-up that eventually leads into the solo. And finally, I included a number of sound effects that would also help add energy to the build-up. And notice how the further along you go, the clearer you can hear that sidechain compression I mentioned earlier. That's because I programmed the sidechain to get stronger over time. If I were to disable the sidechain, it would sound like this. With all this put together, the build-up was finally finished, and it was time to craft the solo. Now, since the chord progression for the song is somewhat unusual and very fast, changing chords nearly every beat, crafting the solo was a bit challenging. I started off by slowing down the tempo of the entire project down from 100 beats per minute to 100 beats per minute. This way I could think up more melodic lines rather than just doing runs, which are generally easier to do when playing quickly. However, even slowing down the song wasn't enough to make crafting the solo easy. In the end, I just had to slowly and meticulously, measure by measure, come up with lines that weren't too runny and had some melodic shape to them. Doing riffs and runs isn't necessarily a bad thing, but having an entire solo of just individual runs isolated from one another isn't a great template for a great solo. After the end of my solo, I included a string orchestra of the main chord progression of the song, because why not? So with all that, here is the final result.
I'm still the same, I will never change. That is why I'm tired. Swim up the stream, cause I have different dreams. That is why I'm tired. You think I'm weird, but I'm still fucking here. That is why I'm tired. Right now at least, cause sometimes I hate me. But right now it's alright. You think I'm weird, but I'm still fucking here. That is why I'm tired. Right now at least, cause sometimes I hate me. It's alright.